The Committee on Local Government, Pensions, and Elections will come to order. Looks like we have a quorum, so would you proceed to take roll, Alex?
Henderson?
Here.
Berger?
And a quorum has been established. Since we have a quorum, I'm going to make a motion that we go into executive session to do two bills today, and I'd ask for a second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And we're in executive session. The first bill we have is Senate Bill 836. I move that we take up Senate Bill 836. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is the bill we heard last week from Senator Crawford. You had a substitute with it. I think most of the things that people had some concerns with were coming out. But do anybody have any discussion at this time? Seeing none, that I move we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And we have adopted the substitute. I now move that Senate Bill 836 with the Senate committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. By your vote of 5-1, we have do passed Senate Bill 836. I now move that we take up Senate Bill 936. Do I have a second?
976.
Huh?
976.
I thought I said 976 if I misspoke. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do. This bill is the bill we heard last week from Senator Black relating to candidate committee and lobbying. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, then I move. Do we have any questions? I'll slow down for a second here. Any? Okay. I now move that we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed? And the ayes have it. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 830, excuse me, it says in here 976 with Senate committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? All those in favor say, oh. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Henderson?
By your vote of 5-1, it was voted do pass. Now I make a motion that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed? And we're now out of an executive session. At this time, we will start with Senate Bill 1023 by Senator from Phelps. Senator, please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, and members of the committee. For the record, Senator Justin Brown representing the 16th Senatorial District. I am here today to present Senate Bill 1023. Currently, the law authorizes public libraries, districts, and certain counties to impose a sales tax up to 0.5%. Senate Bill 1023 allows additional counties to put the sales tax on their ballot. The libraries collectively worked together to see which counties wanted to be included in the bill. I do have the substitute, and what the substitute does, it allows Butler County in on this. I hope the committee will consider voting this version out. Butler County wanted to be included, but did not make the deadline for response. That's why we're having a substitute. And I have a list of counties included if you want me to read them. If not, I can get those to you. There's several. Thank you for hearing this bill today, and I will entertain any questions.
Any questions for the senator? Seeing none. Oh, Senator, proceed.
What counties are there, Senator? Can you name them?
Yeah. St. Charles, Franklin, Warren, Gasconade, Crawford, Buchanan, Iron, Madison, Marys, Miller, Christian, Greene, Jefferson, Jasper, Newton, Cass, Lafayette, Johnson, Webster, Howell, Pettis, Benton, Cooper, Randolph, Monroe, Audrain, Cape Girardeau, Berry, Lawrence, Grundy, Livingston, Saline, Pulaski, Osage, Cole, Phelps, St. Genevieve, Morgan, Perry, Scott, Rawls, Marion, Adair, and Dent. And I'm sure if there's any other counties, we can add those in the substitute as well. We're not against it.
Okay. How did they get on the list? Did they reply to you to get on the list?
They can.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Senator, thank you very much. So we'll ask for anybody to testify in support to please come forward, and make sure you turn in your form. Anybody? Anybody in support?
It's a really popular bill.
You got one.
Well, don't everybody jump up at once.
Sorry for the delay, Mr. Chairman. I thought there were two other gentlemen here to go. Thank you very much. My name is Randy Scher, representing the Missouri Library Association. I think I can answer some of your questions, Senator. There are currently 9 counties that where the public libraries are authorized to impose this tax. And what I think has gone on over the last 10 or 12 months with all the discussion about property tax, I think there's some concern about making sure that we have a safety net in the event that something does affect the property taxes, which most of the libraries are under. So that's so when that interest all came up following the discussion, there was a group that got together and said, okay, we need this safety net in the event we might lose our property tax. Then they went out and that's how this list, I think, was collected. It was not done by the Missouri Library Association. It was done by some interested librarians around the state. So that's how it came about. But again, I think we're just seeking a safety net in the event that something happens to our current funding mechanism. So I'd be glad to try to answer any questions.
Senator, proceed.
Could you talk a little bit more about that, if you know the procedure? Because I know my county that I live in has a library tax on our property tax, and they're not on this list. So were all the county's libraries contacted? Do you know?
Ma'am, I don't. Senator, I do not know. I know it was done by, and I think the person that was helping do that was going to be here, but we can check. But
Okay.
I think they went out to all the public libraries and asked them if they wanted to be included, and the ones that responded are in this bill. And then on the House side, there's almost an identical bill, although there's 2 more on the Senate than there are on the House. So it could be the timing at which it was sent in and cut off. I don't know.
I was just curious. I would think they all might want this. And my other question is there anything in here to keep them from doing both? Or is it this just allows them to vote on the sales tax? So like if they had a property tax now, could they go for the sales tax too?
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would guess, I'm going to suggest that would be possible. But what they would be trying to do is equalizing their revenues that they're currently getting, and we know that some of them are losing revenue right now under some changes. And I think this would be something where they could do something to equalize their current revenues. And so it'd be a much lower tax if they did both, I would think. So
Okay.
we're not trying to grab, we're just
Got it.
trying to
I
protect
understand.
and keep them equal.
Got it. Thank you.
And I think the issue of hoping for a safety net is prominent.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else to testify in support, please come forward, turn in your form.
Hello. My name is Steve Campbell. I'm the director of the Scenic Regional Library. We serve Warren, Franklin, and Gasconade County, 3 of the counties that are in the bill. I'd like to give my appreciation to Senator Brown for introducing the bill. Thank you so much. A little history about this bill, a little background is in 2009, this law was enacted initially to allow the Poplar Bluff Public Library to ask voters for sales tax. It is State Statute 182.802. At the time, they were the only Missouri library that could ask voters for sales tax. After that bill was made into law, Poplar Bluff went to their voters and promised to voluntarily roll back their property tax to zero if the voters would pass a sales tax of an equal amount. The voters approved that sales tax, and since then they've operated on sales tax exclusively. Over the past 17 years, libraries in 8 additional counties have been added to the sales tax law. Up until now, the Assembly has added new libraries to this law on an individual county-by-county basis. There was legislation introduced in 2011, I believe, to make this a statewide law for all libraries, and it did not get any traction. So since then, libraries have always added themselves on individually as counties. This year, with Senate Bill 1023, 29 public libraries in 42 counties across the state are asking to be added to that existing law. Unlike counties, cities, and some special districts like fire districts, which can ask voters for both sales and property taxes, public libraries can only ask voters for property tax. Local property tax represent 90 to 95% of public library revenue in Missouri. The other political subdivisions that can ask voters for property taxes only, like libraries, which include community colleges and school districts, they derive as much as 2/3 of their revenue from other sources, such as federal funds, state funds, and tuition. Once again, libraries do not have those options. We receive 90 to 95% of our revenue from property taxes. And I can't speak for all Missouri libraries, but that other 5% consists partly of A&E funds, athletes and entertainers, and state aid to libraries, direct state aid to libraries, and that's only 2 to 3% of our revenue. So still, once again, an overwhelming majority of it is property taxes. As I mentioned, the existing law for library sales tax does not automatically provide libraries with sales tax. It only allows us to be able to have the option to go to voters and ask for approval. This bill would enable libraries in these 42 counties to do one of 3 things. They can partially roll back their property tax and replace that lost revenue with sales tax, so you have a combination of 2 different types of revenue, which counties and cities and other entities have already. Or, like Poplar Bluff did, it will allow us to completely eliminate our property tax and replace it entirely with sales tax, like I said, as Poplar Bluff did. Or another option would be they can add a sales tax onto their existing property tax revenue. For my library, what we are interested in this bill for is that we can diversify our revenue stream. We do not want to be totally reliant on one type of revenue, no matter what it is. In our case, it's property tax, but what we'd like to see is a mix of property and sales tax to kind of provide some a stronger revenue stream for us. As we know in recent years, as Randy Scheer mentioned, we've heard taxpayers around Missouri ask for property tax reform, or even the elimination of property tax, the elimination of personal property tax. In this session, some legislators have spoken about the need to shift from property taxes and income taxes towards sales tax. This bill would give 29 libraries in Missouri the option to ask their voters and taxpayers if they do, in fact, want to replace their property tax with sales tax. It gives them that option. And then, of course, if there ever, like Randy Scheer said, if there's ever an instance where property taxes or personal personal property taxes go away completely and are eliminated, it gives libraries that option to fall back on sales tax to pick up that revenue stream. Thank you very much. I'll accept any questions.
Any questions? Senator, proceed.
You mentioned there were 8, and I see them in the existing law that already have this. Do you happen to have that list? I'm just curious.
I do not, but I do know that not all 8 are using it. They have the ability to do it, but they have not actually done it.
I can find out. I just thought you might have
Correct.
a list.
I'm sorry, I do not know that.
Nope, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Black.
Hopefully I know the answer to the first part of this. This would not authorize use tax
Correct.
if we made other changes at the state level to allow use tax for library. It is sales tax only.
Correct.
Any others? Senator Nicola.
For your library district, I believe you said you would like a mix of property tax and sales tax. That's correct?
Correct.
And there's really nothing in this bill that would be exclusive one to the other.
Correct.
If this passes, a library could receive sales tax revenue on top of the property tax revenue.
Correct. Like I said, they can eliminate their property tax, they can do a partial sales tax, property tax split, or they can add it onto their existing property tax. The way the law is written, the way it has been written for the last 17 years, they can use any of those courses of action.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next person in favor, please come forward and turn in your witness form.
Good afternoon. My name is John Greisu. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for St. Charles City County Library. I also want to thank the Senator for introducing this bill and the time of this committee to hear this testimony and hopefully vote this bill on. I'm not going to repeat many of the items that Steve Campbell just presented because we have many of the same situations where what St. Charles City County Library District is seeking is the ability to ask our voters how they want to fund their library services. A lot of folks think of libraries, they think of the core service, books. And in St. Charles City County Library, we circulate 6 million books a year, 6 million books and materials a year. And if you take an average value of that, it comes out about, say, $10 an item. That's $60 million in public service that our residents, if there was not a library, would have to come and fund. We collect about $24 million in property tax. And so we have a return on investment for our taxpayers of almost 3 to 1. And so what the challenge that we're facing in St. Charles County, just getting that kind of perspective, is that the cost of insurance for our employees, the cost of books and materials, the cost of these items are growing faster than inflation. And so Hancock limits our ability to increase, even though property assessments are growing faster than inflation. Hancock caps that at 3%, basically inflation, or 5%, whichever's less. And so our expenses are growing faster than inflation, which means that we have less money to do basic things like offer our employees a raise. And so putting this into really that, where does that mean for library districts? For St. Charles City County Library District, in order to be able to offer our employees, we had 214 full-time employees. In order to be able to offer them even a 2.9% increase, because once again, insurance costs and these things grew faster than what Hancock would allow us to raise our rate, we had to reduce our staff by 10. We're looking at the exact same thing this fiscal year, eliminating another 10 employees because our cost of those non-things are growing faster than CPI. In addition to that, you have the various municipalities and other things offering Chapter 100s or checks or 63s in St. Charles County. We're one of the fastest counties growing. But when they abate those property taxes for new development, it reduces our ability. And so that's costing us another $600,000 annually. And so the goal of this for us is, once again, to diversify that income stream, so that we can have a stable income stream so that we can basically afford the core services that the public expects us to offer. And so that's what we're seeking and supporting of this bill, is that we have ability to support those basically core services on a daily basis. With that, I appreciate your time.
Any questions? Senator Berger.
Thank you for testifying. What is the sales tax rate now in St. Charles City or County? Do you know that?
It's right about 8% based upon where you're at.
No, it's not greater than that?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's some areas that have like community improvement districts, or in their special districts, and it'll get up to about 10%. But we're right below that number. So being able to have a slight sales tax would help. If you kind of put in perspective, if we were going to ask for, say, $5 million in additional revenue, which use that number as theoretical, that comes out to 5 cents per hundred on a personal property. And a sales tax, that's 1/16th of a cent. And so when we have polled our constituents of sales tax or property tax, they overwhelmingly would rather see a 1/16% increase in their sales tax than a 5-cent increase in that property tax that they get at the end of the year.
You know, the one thing when I look at this, when we talk about imposing a sales tax of up to 0.5%, I think that number should only be equal to what we're actually receiving now, not greater than. Does that make sense? I think if you look at let's say your revenue is $1 million, that sales tax number should only equal $1 million.
That the sales tax, the net revenue, you're saying, would only equal the net revenue
Whatever your revenue is now, whatever your income is now. Because if not, it would be greater than, you know what I mean? Some library districts could ask for 0.5 cent, and let's say they're getting 700,000 now, and this would equal $1 million. I don't think that's the way we want to go. Does that make sense?
It does. And for St. Charles County, it's the core, our reason for supporting this is that diversification of our revenue stream. Property tax is beyond our control. When our cities and the municipalities within our community offer economic abatements, that takes funds out of those revenues. Hancock, we continue those that follow the Hancock and roll back their taxes. Our original tax rate approved by the voters is 26 cents per hundred. Over time, we've rolled back that to 16 cents per hundred. So we've reduced our property tax voluntarily through Hancock by 10 cents per hundred. So sales tax allows us to have that stable funding that would complement the property tax.
Doesn't some of those abatements add to your revenue, though?
Repeat, I'm sorry.
Do some of those abatements add to your revenues?
Such as
like a TIF district, if they waive 50% of the tax revenues, you still get You still get an increase. You're just not getting all of it, right?
Yeah. So, like on a Chapter 100, they'll give us a pilot, so a payment in lieu of taxes of up to 50% of the project. That's not always the case. So there's a project that just went through in the city of St. Charles. They abated 100% for the first 5 years, and then they roll it to 50% for the next 5 years. So each of these cities, based upon that project they're looking at, will look at different formulas. This particular one, this last one came through, was for a mixed-use residential development. So they increased the number of people that we're serving, but provided us only, for the first 5 years, zero additional revenue. And after that first 5 years, only 50% of the revenues we need to serve additional population.
Okay. One thing, when I was in county government, I thought half of something is a whole lot better than 100% of nothing, though.
Correct. I mean, it's always better to get something versus nothing. But if you look at the dollars per capita over time that St. Charles City County Library has, it's decreasing on a fairly consistent basis that we're getting. Even though we get something, our population is growing in St. Charles County at a rate that our per capita, the amount of money we receive per capita is reducing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Nicola.
Sir, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I just had a thought. Do you have any idea, how do they decide to put a library in? Is it by population? For instance, in my county, in Jackson County, there's libraries popping up everywhere. The town next to me has 2. I have 1 now. I'm not even sure what's their requirement? What do they go by? Is it population size where they decide to put a library in? Because here, and I'm not against libraries, but what I'm having a problem with when we're talking about taxes, raising taxes, is the people, my constituents, are hurting. They're bleeding. And when I see libraries popping up all of the time, and then, we have to pay for people, we have to pay for libraries, the books, and all of that, it's just more money. So I'm just curious if you know how the libraries decide to put a library in.
So in St. Charles County, and I think each district, I can't answer, for
Sure.
Mid-Continent and
No,
your
I
area.
understand.
So in St. Charles County, what we look at is we track the usage based upon two things. People can use our resources digitally, so that's a little harder to track, but those that physically come into the branch, they have a library card. So we can see the radius of service based upon the size of the branch and what that radius is. St. Charles County, for our branch that's around 30,000 square feet, that is a 6 mile diameter. It's 3 mile radius that people will drive to our branch and receive services. So when we lay out our plan for where we like to see future branches, we look at that radius based upon the size of the facility to ensure that we have proper coverage. We have not asked for an increase in the rate for the last 30 years. And if you think about St. Charles County, if you're familiar with that area, we've had a lot of growth that's occurred in the western part of the county. And so most of our branches are located in the city of St. Charles, St. Peters, and O'Fallon, all on the eastern end. To the west, Wentzville, Lake St. Louis, and those part of the areas, we don't have many branches because we just don't have the revenue to be able to build those. That's okay. That's what the voters of our community have committed for library services, and so we're providing that service. Where we're at now is that with property tax continuing to essentially following the rules of Hancock, rolling back as political subdivisions should, and then you have these other impacts that are basically eroding that property tax base. We're in need of being able to look at how do we provide stable revenues. St. Charles County is it's very similar to many areas of that part of Kansas City. You think most of our folks would have a cell phone and have access to internet. We have, just last year, over 65,000 hours of people coming in and using our public computers.
Yeah.
You just think, I can't imagine that. My kids, all of them, 13, 14, have the internet in their hands. But there's a portion of our community, regardless of where you live, that basic service to be able to have internet access is key. 65,000 hours. We have rooms that people use. We have over, I think, 500, how many hours in room reservations?
Yeah, sir, I
amazing.
completely understand. I'm not against libraries at all. I'll use them occasionally myself. I know a lot of people do. I was just curious of how you decide, if it's based on population, but you answered it, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else to testify in support? Once, going twice. Anybody to testify in opposition? Please come forward. And please make sure you've turned in your form.
Hi, Lisa Panett, Armorvine. I'm just going to state the obvious. Republicans don't put taxes on the ballot. I don't think any of you went into your district and said, hey guys, I was thinking about putting a new tax on the ballot. What do you think? As far as what we need to do, if we do something with eliminating real estate taxes, then great. We have the discussion then. We don't put the cart in front of the horse. And I just think these conversations become very disingenuous when you think about your districts and who that you say that you are. Now, for the Democrats, I applaud you. I'd say, hey, go for it. Like, you guys are being true to who you said you were going to be. So, praise to that. But I just want to say, as Republicans, we shouldn't be looking at extending taxes on the ballot.
Senator, proceed.
I would have to disagree with you on that comment. We have things on the ballot. If you want services, you have to pay for them. In my area, we pay for roads and bridges, we pay for law enforcement, and all those things have to go on the ballot. The people in the district vote for them, so we're not raising the taxes. We're giving them the opportunity to weigh in, and I just think that's a bit short-sighted. Thank you.
But that is adding an additional tax. We're not taking one away, you're adding one.
Not necessarily in this case.
In this case,
in
yeah,
this-
this is the case I'm talking about.
No, in this case, they could add it on, but they could also replace it. So that's up to the people. And I get a little tired of this argument that we're raising taxes when we're not. You're giving the people the opportunity. In my case, in my county, every single tax that's on those property taxes was voted by the people of the county. So do you not think they should have the freedom to vote for those things? I do. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else to testify against? Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes? Seeing none. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Crawford, to go back to your original question with our first witness, if there are any counties in anybody's district that wants to be included in this, I'll work, just work with my office, and I can work with the chairman to try to get this into committee substitute. And if we miss it in the committee substitute, we can always work with them on the floor. I'm willing to allow anybody to do this because, again, this is already current law. We already do this, and it is up to 0.5% sales tax. It doesn't mean, it's going to go immediately to that. I'm assuming these counties are going to work with what they think they can get passed. So this is just allowing additional counties that don't participate in this now to where the local governments have made the decision they went on this, want to be involved in this, and it's given the voters the opportunity to vote it up or down, and I appreciate the opportunity to present this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, next up today will be Senate Bill 995 by the senator from the 15th. Senator, when you're ready, please proceed. Oh, Senator, is this somebody's birthday today?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of this outstanding committee. David Gregory, St. Louis County 15. Before you today is Senate Bill 995. This bill would permit the St. Louis City Courts, so the judges, to appoint their own sheriff. Okay? And before I go on, I think it's an important distinction to note that these are not the ordinary sheriffs that you would be used to. These sheriffs are different. They have different roles in the rest of the state. Their primary functions are administrative, so they're not police. I mean, most of us think of sheriff, we think police, law enforcement, arrests. That is not what these sheriffs are in the city of St. Louis. They don't have the power of arrest. They're not law enforcement officers. They simply provide security of the courthouses, so our judges, security of our judges. They transport prisoners, and they serve process. So right now, we've got a serious issue. You've probably seen it on the news. We had our another very fun debacle and public humiliation of our sheriff, who is sitting in the federal penitentiary right now for all kinds of awful things, one of which is acting like a policeman when he is not, without the authority of being a policeman. There's a complete lack of management throughout the city sheriff's office and has been for quite some time. Our courtrooms are being left without police. Dangerous. We're having exits and entries unguarded. Weapons have been brought into the courthouse multiple different times. They have failed to transport prisoners to things like their constitutional right to a hearing or things like serious medical attention. The only role they really have, they continue to do. And folks, I got to tell you, it is super dangerous. That is super dangerous for our domestic violence victims to show up to court. It's super dangerous for any witness. It's super dangerous for our judges. It's dangerous for everyone. And folks, quite frankly, we've had enough. So I can tell you our judges are certainly in support of this, and so is our current sheriff, Chief Hayden, who was the former chief of police in the city of St. Louis. And it's also interesting that the command structure of the sheriff's office, so those under the head or the head sheriff, the majority of them are supportive of this. And folks, here's the deal. Finally, Finally, our voters are going to get what they deserve. They're going to get safe courthouses. They're going to get that. And they still maintain complete oversight. And as a matter of fact, more oversight, easier oversight. Why? Because now they can unretain a judge. And for any of you who know, unretaining a judge, not retaining a judge is it's a lot easier than trying to get the person you want across the finish line. It's cheaper, it's easier. I absolutely love it. And every single judge is going to be held accountable for this because the judges will vote by majority of who protects them. So finally, it's also good to note, same thing we got in St. Louis County. Our sheriffs are appointed by a collective vote of the judges who they're there to protect, simply to protect. With that, folks, I will take any questions.
Questions for the witness? Senator Beck.
Thank you. So just real quick, so the senators from the 5th and the 4th, are they aware of this bill?
They're aware of this. I talked to Senator Roberts, who is not in support. I've talked to Senator May, who I got the impression wasn't in support but didn't get a final conclusion. My guess would be they're not in support.
And they represent the city of St. Louis, correct?
That's right.
Thanks.
Yes.
Any other questions? Senator Nicola.
I just want to say happy birthday, Senator Gregory.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any others? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody to testify in support, please come forward and turn in your witness form.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris McGraw. I'm the presiding judge of the 22nd Judicial Circuit. So I'm responsible for everyone that comes into my court, my two courthouses. As Senator Gregory just mentioned, we, over the many years, we've faced a very dangerous scenario because it's not necessarily security for the judges that keep me up at night. What keeps me up at night is an event that's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. We've seen it happen in other courthouses, that someone's going to be seriously injured or killed. In fact, it was in the 90s that Ken Bumruck shot up the St. Louis County Courthouse. So we've seen this we've seen this sort of hostility, not necessarily to the court, but to, as Senator Gregory mentioned, domestic violence victims. In a typical protection order docket, you have respondents, the potential violator of a domestic crime, and you have the petitioner who's looking for protection. Both of their families generally are in the courtroom. We have to keep those separate. Judge Colonna, I think, is going to come after to offer his testimony. He's presently on the protective docket. We've already seen it bubble up on the family court floors. Fights between family members, fights between intimidation as to. I've seen this happen in criminal cases where friends or supporters of a defendant are photographing or videotaping a crime victim's testimony. I've seen this happen as it relates to sort of intimidation of jurors. So this is the first most important role of the sheriff in the city of St. Louis, as Senator Gregory mentioned, is just a function of the courts. They serve process, they transport prisoners, and they provide courthouse security. Most important to me is the courthouse security. What keeps me up at night is knowing something's going to happen, and what even worse, that I didn't prevent it from occurring. And I think by assuring that there's a professional in this role as sheriff, will instruct how we keep our courthouse secure. I think a good example of this is when Sheriff Montgomery was temporarily removed by Judge Omer because he was presently serving, or he was in custody in Perry County, Illinois, under federal violations of bond conditions. Judge Omer removed him as a sheriff, and I took upon to make an interim appointment of a sheriff just so we had somebody running the office. And I appointed Chief John Hayden, who was a former chief of police of the city of St. Louis. In the time that I've done that, I know that he's professionalized this. The courthouse is more secure. The morale is higher. Now, I know as a judge not to believe when people tell me my jokes are funny or that I've lost weight. I know not to believe those things to be true. However, I know these things are true because I'm not getting flooded with complaints and emails and security reports that, you know, a maintenance man brought a gun to work. We're not having those problems right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Chief Hayden is running the agency. Not only as to that, but it's the budget issues. I sat down with Paul Payne, the city budget director, last week, and he brought it up voluntarily to me that he was able to work out a budget problem with Chief Hayden because Chief Hayden was able to sort of organizationally fix whatever the budget problem was. That's sort of the second issue is that if we appoint the sheriff, not only has it become a professional position, but all the problems that have haunted the sheriff's office for years and years and years, budget problems, personnel problems, all those will no longer exist because the courts have a budget process. The courts have a personnel department. So we can fix a lot of the problems that have plagued the city sheriff's office for years. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Sir, thank you very much. Next person to testify in support. Please tell the committee who you are and proceed when you're ready.
Anytime I get to tell you to go quick. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Colonna. I'm an associate circuit judge in the 22nd Judicial Circuit. Prior to that, I may have spent about 8 years in the other chamber. I bring that up because, believe it or not, this is difficult for me. Not because I'm testifying to a bunch of senators, but I've been an elected official. I know what it takes. I know the sacrifices that you have to make. Our sheriff is currently elected. And for me to get up here and not just thank the senator, but to support his position on making this an appointed position is a little bit, it runs contrary to my soul. But I have to tell you, Governor Parson appointed me a judge in 2019. Our associate judges in St. Louis City are kind of unique, just like our sheriff is unique. Our sheriff by statute has no law enforcement responsibilities. Our sheriff is prohibited from executing law enforcement responsibilities. Their only purpose by statute is to serve paper, transport prisoners, and we have an agreement to provide security. What's unique about associate judges in the city is we sit in specialized divisions, criminal divisions, domestic violence divisions, civil divisions. I've done all of them. And it truly hurts to say that independent of who our sheriff has been, the services that they are statutorily required to provide haven't been provided. I have been in the criminal divisions where the Supreme Court has told me I have to give somebody a bond hearing, and I ask the sheriffs, where's the prisoner? I don't know. What do you mean? I ordered this person 2 weeks ago, they're not here. Well, we didn't have somebody. Oh, okay, I get it. And then I ask myself, well, where are the deputies? Well, an elected sheriff has the ability to establish their priorities. I understand that. It's been a recent priority, independent of the administration, to provide secondary services throughout the city of St. Louis, to buy golf carts, to help provide secondary services. And when I see a deputy sheriff doing secondary at Schnucks downtown, and I can't get a prisoner in for his constitutionally mandated bond hearing, it bothers me. It also bothers me when I have a courtroom full of 100 to 150 people on a domestic violence docket, and I only have one deputy. And I have one deputy because I called hollering and screaming, it's a half hour past start time and I don't have security in the courtroom. I've had fights break out in the courtroom. I've had to press that panic button. I've asked for backup. I get it. This is why it's hurtful for me to advocate for the good administration of justice to do away with an elected position and instead have an appointed position. The senator has asked me to be brief. I did write a little something that I just want to share. I try and put myself in your position. You represent districts all throughout the state, rural, urban. Prior Truman intern like myself. St. Louis City with its sheriff's department is unique in the state of Missouri. It's not a political arena. It's where people come on their most difficult days of their lives. When the victims seek justice, defendants face their loss of freedom, and families wait in fear and hope. When a sheriff's department is responsible only for courtroom security, service of process, or prisoner transportation, its role is not to set policy or represent political views. Its role is to carry out the court orders faithfully, safely, and impartially to serve those citizens of the city of St. Louis. Elections by nature bring politics into a place where it doesn't belong, in the courthouse. Campaigning, fundraising, public pressure to follow through with promises on the campaign trail really have no place in the courthouse and detracts from the statutory responsibilities of our sheriff. Having the court appoint a sheriff sends a clear message. This office serves justice, the administration of justice. It ensures leadership chosen for an individual's experience, professionalism, and temperament, not their popularity. With that, I thank you so much for your time, and I would entertain any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else to testify in support? Seeing none. Anybody to testify in opposition? Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Happy birthday. We get to meet on your birthday like this. Sorry. Sean Rose, Missouri Sheriff's United, representing all the sheriffs of the state of Missouri. Obviously, we can't, as unfortunate of a problem as it was in St. Louis, we don't, if someone quits to be governor, we don't unelect that position. So we feel like it needs to stay the way it is. Maybe we get a good candidate, we get some people behind them, restore some of that what was tarnished, unfortunately. So be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in opposition? Proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Gregory, my name is Ron Berry. I'm here on behalf of the City of St. Louis Sheriff's Office, and we just want to go on a record in opposition to this bill. We do understand that over the last few months there have been some issues, but those have been corrected, and the system itself corrected them by the Attorney General coming in and removing Sheriff Montgomery. We believe now with the appointment of Sheriff Hayden that we have got the system back on its feet back on the ground, and it looks like Sheriff Hayden is ready to take not only full command of the post, but also run for election.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in opposition? Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator Gregory.
Simply that I'm thankful that the City Sheriff's Association can recognize that with the appointment of the latest sheriff, things are going very well. With that, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gregory. Our next bill up today will be Senate Bill 896 by the Senator from Franklin. When you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you. For the record, I am Senator Ben Brown of the 26th District, and I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 896, though I will be presenting on a Senate Committee sub, which I believe should have been, was distributed to the committee members ahead of the hearing. And happy to answer any questions on the differences between the two as well. Focus mainly on conversations with some of the clerks, just some mostly minor clarifications to just address any concerns that were brought to my attention.
And Senator Brown, they do have that. I apologize. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but they do have the substitute.
Terrific. Throughout my first 3 sessions in the legislature, one of my primary areas of focus has been restoring confidence in and ensuring the integrity of our system of elections. While the threats to this system can evolve over time, I believe that there are few that pose as great of a risk to our state sovereignty and to our right of self-determination as the threat of outside influence. This influence can come in many forms. In recent years, we've seen the rise of dark money groups seeking to undermine our state's electoral process under the guise of reforming our elections to quote-unquote bring together election officials around a set of common values and standards. In 2020, an organization called the Center for Tech and Civic Life, or the CTCL, was at the heart of an effort to use more than $400 million provided by Mark Zuckerberg to influence the way election offices function. Also to steer funds disproportionately to jurisdictions that were more likely to vote for their preferred party or candidate. Funds that have since been commonly referred to as Zuckerbucks. The grift is that the CTCL and the coalition of groups seeking this influence, known as the U.S. Alliance for Election Excellence, will offer a variety of grants and services. However, like most things in life, these do come at a price. In exchange, offices are often expected to provide the CTCL and its partners substantial in-kind contributions. Offices are also expected to help the center develop its programming and to turn over a vast array of information regarding their inner workings. Members are expected to work with them to develop and implement a quote-unquote improvement plan that reshapes each office's operations, even providing trainings accordingly to further solidify their grip on the electoral process in that jurisdiction. Several years ago, the General Assembly here and in 23 other states did pass a straightforward ban on the direct donation of Zuckerbucks. However, in an attempt to usurp the ban, they are now shifting to a membership-based model. This clever little loophole involves requiring membership fees from participating members to bypass the current prohibition. They do this as an attempt to recharacterize any donations, services, trainings, etc., provided to participating officials simply as membership benefits. The reality is that even if there are membership dues paid, they are generally just converted into quote-unquote scholarships and refunded back in the form of credits used to obtain equipment, services, and trainings, often exclusively from the CTCL and other similar outside organizations seeking to exert more control over our electoral process. It has been an effective way of skirting the law up to this point. However, this bill would close these loopholes once and for all. For one, Senate Bill 896 seeks to put an end to this practice by ensuring the ban on private election funding includes in-kind contributions by these entities. This legislation also bars government entities or election officers from joining any membership, participating in any program, or purchasing any services from any non-government entity or individual unless such entity or individual has complied with a certification requirement. This certification would state that they do not directly or indirectly finance election administration, nor are they funded by foreign donations. It also requires any election officer who joins any such non-government organization in their private capacity to disclose their participation to the public, including a disclosure on the participating election official's website. This ensures that the public has a mechanism to hold election officials accountable for participation in any program whose impact may hamper confidence, influence, or outright seek to exert control over a community's local electoral process. I have been honored to work with colleagues from both sides of the aisle to pass meaningful election reform measures over the last 3 years. I hope that this continues and that the committee will join me in supporting Senate Bill 896, ensuring the previous sucker-bucks ban passed by the General Assembly is honored and not just simply disregarded through the exploitation of loopholes. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the senator? Seeing none. Thank you. Anybody here to testify in support, please come forward. Turn in your form, if you don't mind.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm Chad Ennis. I'm Vice President of the Honest Elections Project. Our goal is to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. So private funding in elections is just simply corrosive to the process. Money that comes in to fund how elections are run is simply doesn't look good regardless of who is providing it. And everyone wonders if someone's going to give, as in 2020, $400 million to election administration, what do they expect the benefit to come back to them in order to spend that kind of money? But you guys saw that problem 2 years ago, and you guys passed HB 1878 to deal with it. But the Center for Tech and Civic Life will not be deterred. As Senator Brown laid out, they decided that instead of just giving money, they would make a membership program. And they've actually done this in Missouri, in both Boone County and Scotland County. Scotland County has withdrawn at this point. I'm not sure of the status of Boone County. Haven't seen any reporting on that. We've done an extensive look at the Alliance and their process. If you go to our website, honestelectionsproject.org, we have a report where we have their membership agreement. We have the emails that they send to election officials trying to entice them into this program. And I think what's interesting, what some of those documents will show is what Senator Brown touched on, is that it's supposed to be a partnership, and it's a two-way street. Notes from one of the meetings said, from an election administrator said, oh, I see, I give something and I get something. So it's a two-way street of information. The Alliance goes to great lengths to say they're nonpartisan, but if you review the boards and directors of these various entities, you will see nothing but activists and mostly Democrat Party operatives. And I think a point that we haven't looked at, and you'll see in the bill that there's some certifications on foreign donations that they haven't received foreign money. That's because the Center for Tech and Civic Life took let me get the number right, $25 million from the New Venture Fund. Now, what's the New Venture Fund? That's part of Arabella Advisors. I'm sorry, this is going to get step. Arabella Advisors is a liberal dark money group. They, New Venture Fund, has taken $245 million from a Swiss billionaire named Hans-Georg Wyss. So you can see Swiss billionaire gives money to new venture fund who gives money directly into election administration offices through these programs. That is something that does not, at the least doesn't look good, and at the worst is corrosive to the system. This bill fixes that and fixes other loopholes in the bill or in the current law. Indiana has already passed this similar approach, and other states are bringing it up now here in the session at the beginning of this year. So I appreciate your time in indulging me, and we'll take any questions y'all have.
Any questions? Senator Beck.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm not familiar with the Honest Elections Project, so what exactly are you?
We're a 501c4 Honest Elections Project Action that we work on election law and issues.
Who funds you?
Our donors give anonymously, and we don't divulge that.
What's that?
We don't divulge that because we comply
So that
with
would
federal
you'd be
law.
considered dark money too then, right?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Anybody else to testify in support? Please come forward, turn in your witness form.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you. Chairman Henderson and members of the committee, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Chandra Hendren, and I represent Heritage Action, a national grassroots organization with conservative activists nationwide, including many Missourians. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of SB896. We appreciate Senator Brown bringing forward this bill. It's a great bill. As was mentioned, in 2022, the Missouri legislature passed SB836, or ZUCBUCS, as it was called, a bill to prevent the private funding of government election offices. Since then, a workaround to the law, as has been referenced, was found, which has become known as ZUCBUCS 2.0. SB896 strengthens the existing ban on private funding of government election offices and adds a layer of integrity by protecting against foreign influence. Further, this bill prohibits election officers in their official capacities from entering into membership agreements or programs with private entities that have ever worked with or financed election administration. It also sets guardrails around membership agreements or programs that an election official may enter into the private capacity if they relate to the administration of elections. Democracy is suffering from a credibility crisis, and voters have doubts about the legitimacy of the democratic process. It is imperative that we keep influence from foreign funding out of our government election offices, set clear rules and accountability for those who run them, and are transparent. SB 896 ensures that Missouri's election administration is kept nonpartisan and out of the reach of those who would influence them for their own purposes. Voting should be secure, accessible, and honest, and nothing more. This is how elections are supposed to work. Thank you for your time and your support of this bill.
Any questions? Senator Beck.
Same question. So Heritage, is that a C4
Sure.
also?
I'm sorry, what?
How are you funded?
Heritage Action is supported by donors as well, and I
So-
don't disclose those donors.
But you don't disclose them, so they could be foreign, they could
And-
be anybody, we don't know, right?
Yeah, I'm not aware of all of them, but I know it's many donors. But the purpose of this bill, as was mentioned before, is
No,
elections should be
I'm asking about
nonpartisan.
your organization. I'm not trying to
Okay.
be ignorant or anything else.
Yeah.
But you're telling us about this bill, but you're coming from an organization that doesn't disclose their donors, and they could be foreign donors, they could be anything, correct?
Yeah, they could be anyone who supports the organization.
That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
And what I want to add to you about this bill, though, is that our elections they shouldn't be trying to be influenced by others. They should be nonpartisan and not funded by others outside. Thank you for the question.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in support? Seeing none. Any divided to testify in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. I am Kurt Barr. I am the Director of Elections for St. Charles County and the Second Vice President of the Missouri Association of County Clerks and Election Authorities. I am here today in a soft opposition to the bill, specifically as the underlying bill is written. I haven't had a chance to read the sub to know if it addresses all our concerns, but I do want to thank the Senator for listening to a lot of the concerns and saying that he's working on making changes. Thank you. So, what I'm saying, may change after I have a chance to read this up. But I just wanted to express the concerns I brought up to the Senator about this bill. So, first of all, I don't know any clerk, and the Clerk Association is certainly not in support of foreign funding of our elections. And so we overall support the intent of the legislation, but the original draft was written a little bit broad and gave us some serious concerns, and so we wanted to make sure that the sub was able to narrow it down. One of the things is when you define donation, that could be as something as simple as a conference fee. As several of you know, I was a state representative. I used to go to the ALEC conferences, to the NCSL conferences, and in my current capacity as an elected official, as a director of elections, if I were to go to one of those conferences today, if this were passed, and one person from a foreign country paid a conference fee to go to that conference, I'd be in violation of the law. And so that's just an example of the broadness of the language, and I would hope that we can tighten that up so that that kind of thing couldn't happen. There is an entity. It's known as the Election Center. It's been around for 40 years. It's provided professional development for election authorities across the country, and well before the Zuckerberg grant. And this is an entity that is paid for by conference fees, just like ALEC or NCSL, and they provide a level of professional development that we can't get often anywhere else. And so I would also hope that this bill wouldn't cause that level of professional development to be something that election authorities in Missouri couldn't attend. Another issue is the definition of election official or election officer. It technically would apply to my election judges, who are my paid volunteers, any municipal clerk, any school board superintendent or their secretary, or any IT vendor for any county that serves as clerks. It's a very broad definition, and so hopefully that can be tightened down. Also, in subsection 2, election administration, because it only says implementing an election, that technically could apply to a union election, a church board election, a social club election, not just public elections. And so, again, there's just tightening up of the language that could be helpful. On page 3 of the underlying bill, it talks about how the certification has to be dated and sworn by the person under penalty of perjury. And so I have a concern that if I go to, ALEC and say, hey, I need a statement that you have no foreign funding, and by the way, if you get this wrong, you're guilty of perjury under the state of Missouri, that I might not get a response on that. And so I think that the language could potentially be slightly chilling in that regard. And then the final part, the last half of the bill deals with us in our private capacity. So if I didn't use my county funds to pay for a association fee and instead use my personal funds to pay for this in my private capacity to be able to get these resources that the bill's designed to eliminate, or if I join or even consider joining. So if I have a thought of joining the U.S. Alliance for Election Assistance, then for 180 days, I have to put conspicuously on top of my website that I considered joining this entity. Now, I know that's not the intent of the senator's language, but that's the words of the senator's language. And so these are the concerns that we brought up. And, we don't want foreign funding of our elections, but we also want the ability to actually have legitimate professional development, to be able to go to conferences without facing a criminal penalty, or in our private capacities elsewhere to say, okay, well, because you were a member of a union and they had an election, now you have to put that on the website for a span of time. And the last thing that I had was the first speaker in favor. He mentioned that there were 2 county clerks that had been a member of the alliance. The clerk from Boone County is no longer a member. So at the moment, as far as I'm aware, there is not a single clerk or election authority in the state of Missouri who is a member of this particular alliance that was brought up. So I'm not going to say this is a solution looking for a problem, but it's a problem that's not existing at the moment. I'm not saying it couldn't exist in the future, but at the moment we do not have a clerk that is part of this group. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in opposition, please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Lieberman. I'm the Director and General Counsel for the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition, a nonpartisan network of voting rights advocates. We work to ensure that voting is free, fair, and accessible to all Missourians. And as part of this work, we spend a lot of time getting to know our local election officials and learning about the challenges they face undertaking local election administration. And certainly we frequently hear from local election authorities who are, their budgets are strapped and they're often trying to think creatively about how to innovate systems in their jurisdictions in order to be able to ensure greater accessibility for the residents of those jurisdictions. I certainly appreciate the underlying intent of this legislation, but I do believe that the goal to avoid conflicts of interest or quid pro quos can certainly be made without unduly limiting the ability of local election authorities to interact with one another and to interact with other election organizations around the country where they get these ideas and are able to think through how they can best innovate for themselves. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Senator Beck.
It's more of a comment, but you mentioned about funding, and sometimes that is a problem, is the state doesn't hold up their end of the bargain to pay these local election agencies. And I hear that all the time from our clerks, that they don't do what they're supposed to do, and it sometimes puts them in a bind going forward. And I would really like to see that changed. It may be a may, or I don't know if it's a may or a shall, but if we could actually start funding these elections would be a nice thing to do. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in opposition, please come forward.
Good afternoon. Nancy Copenhaver from Moberly, Missouri. I'm the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Missouri. Also a former Deputy County Clerk and a former legislator. We're testifying in opposition to this bill because of some vague issues that we think it is, such as defining election officers. I have concerns, or we have concerns as well, about whether this includes those workers at elections, as well as the many others who volunteer to help make our elections work. It sets up lots of new reporting requirements, and I'm sure that our county clerks don't need a lot more things that they have to do because they have enough on their plates right now. And a good point would be to echo what Senator Beck said about the lack of funding for some of the things that they do. I know that that is always a problem, especially in rural counties. It allows voters to bring charges against election officials. If that's the case, then I would think it might be even more difficult to get people to volunteer to do those kinds of things. And we're also worried about sometimes harassing or intimidating election workers. That has been the case in certain areas as well. And because I haven't read the substitute, I don't know if some of these things may have been taken care of in that, but this is a good place for me to point out that it makes it very difficult for people to testify in favor or against bills when every time you read a bill and you get to the committee, there's always a substitute we haven't had an opportunity to read. Thank you.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next person in opposition. Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator Brown, you're welcome to close.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention, the point was made that about a couple of the witnesses here that were testifying for organizations, and there's some questions over their funding. They're here testifying in favor despite the fact that this would also prevent organizations like them from being able to come in and influence our elections in the same way. And I'll also point out that any entities that would be subject to any ban or subject to any kind of certification requirements would still maintain the right to come here and testify in favor or opposition of any piece of legislation, just as they did today as well. As far as, there were some concerns mentioned, and I believe most of these have been addressed in the sub, and I believe once they look over the sub, that will ease a lot of the tensions over any of this. It did modify the definition of election officer to include only those people within that office that have duties that consist of direct decision-making authority related to election administration, to narrow to address that concern when that was brought to me. It narrows the restriction on participating in a membership program or service by limiting it to those that only relate to the administration of elections, to just have that tightening of language to eliminate the vagueness that was referenced in the original bill. It also tightens the definition of foreign donation, as to clarify that, for instance, if someone came to the same conference you were at, happened to be a non-U.S. citizen, they paid a membership fee, that was a scenario that was raised, that would not be classified as a foreign donation. And it also permits an election officer, in the case of any terminated membership, this is another request that was made, to indicate on the disclosure on the website that the membership had been terminated during the 180-day period in which the disclosure is required. So that way, if they left an organization, that way they're not stuck with that, seeing it as kind of a black eye on their website. They can edit that, amend that to clarify that the membership had been terminated in the effective date as well. And other than that, I'd just like to say thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Brown. With no other business before this committee, I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that